Throughout the 11 seasons of The Walking Dead and the 17 seasons of spin-off shows set in the same cinematic universe, it's safe to say there are a fair few mysteries. Now, it remains to be seen if we will ever get answers to these questions, but today I thought we'd delve into the world of The Walking Dead and explore some of the biggest unsolved mysteries from within it. Arguably the scariest episode in the entire series is Season 11's Episode 6, titled On the Inside. In this episode, we see Connie and Virgil running from an unknown figure in the woods before stumbling across a house. They decide to seek refuge for the night inside this house, but it becomes obvious fairly quickly they have made a grave mistake. See, this house is crawling with feral humans hiding inside the walls, waiting to feast on any unfortunate soul who seeks refuge inside. Now, this episode is absolutely brilliant. It leans heavily into the show's horror aspect and uses the character of Connie to portray most of the tension, as she is deaf and we witness most of the episode from her perspective, which just adds a whole new layer to the terror. But this episode left us one huge mystery. Who the hell are these feral people? The only sliver of information we ever get on these people is that they were once a big family that lived in this now horror house. But we have no idea what their names are, at what stage in the apocalypse they reverted into these primal beasts that hunt down humans, and if they are all dead. There could be some still alive waiting in the walls. And how many people have fallen victim to these cannibals? They are a group totally shrouded in mystery, appearing in only a singular episode. Look, this episode is one of my favourites from Season 11, as it truly is terrifying to watch. However, it left a lot more questions than answers, and the case of the feral human's identity will most likely forever remain a mystery. The Vatos gang are a community shown in Season 1 Episode 4 of The Walking Dead, in which they abduct Glenn and steal a bag of guns from our group. After our survivors visit their hideout at an old people's home in downtown Atlanta, they make a deal to split the guns and give Glenn back to our group, and we learn that the Vatos gang are actually some pretty solid people, helping out the elderly and protecting their nursing home. After this exchange, the two groups go their separate ways, and we never see the Vatos gang appear in The Walking Dead ever again. However, there is a deleted scene from the Season 2 pilot where we learn the fates of what happened to this community. Now, I can't show it on my channel for copyright reasons, but after this video, definitely go and check it out because it is extremely interesting. But essentially, Rick and the others, after the explosion at the CDC, head to the Vatos gang for refuge. But when they arrive, they find their supplies taken, walkers feasting on the dead, and the group have been executed. And Daryl quickly pieces things together and learns that it was another group of humans that were responsible for the Vatos gang's death. But who was it that actually killed the Vatos gang? Because it's never answered. The showrunners confirm their deaths are canon, so they aren't alive within the universe, but we never get concrete evidence of which group actually executed them. Some fans speculated it was the governor and Woodbury that killed the Vatos gang, but ultimately there is no evidence to actually support this. And to this day, some 14 years later, this mystery still remains, well, just that. A complete mystery, and we will likely never know who actually killed the Vatos gang. Now, the character of Tobias is a case that has fascinated me ever since his appearance in the pilot episode of Fear the Walking Dead. See, Tobias here is not just the first person we know of who predicted the wildfire virus, but also prepared for it. Born in 1994, Tobias lived in Los Angeles, California with his parents. Throughout school, he was bullied. However, on August 24th, 2010, 3 whole days before the wildfire virus would be announced as a global pandemic, Tobias is caught bringing in a knife to school. But when questioned, he explains it's for protection against the walkers, before anybody else in that school even knew what they were, let alone had seen one. And after the school is later evacuated that day, there's a scene of Tobias looking out the school bus window back at Madison as if to say, "I told you so," essentially predicting the fall of society. Now, in episode 2 of Fear the Walking Dead, Madison Clark returns to her school in order to get medical supplies for Nick, her son, but she runs into Tobias, who is also there stocking up on supplies. Now, this is where the pair run into a walker, and Tobias shows us some early knowledge of the virus, by not just attempting to kill the walker, recognising it's no longer a human, but also going straight for the brain, realising that is the only way to put the dead down. This is where he reveals to Madison that he's been stocking up for months, and although Madison does invite Tobias to wait out the virus at her house, Tobias says this doesn't go away and realises that this is the end of the world. So Tobias demonstrates an advanced understanding of the virus. 3 days before Monument Day had even happened, he'd stocked up on supplies and he predicted the end of the world, as well as demonstrating he knew how to handle walkers long before anybody else had realised, even the military. But after episode 2 of Fear the Walking Dead, he vanishes. We never see the character of Tobias ever again. Now, Dave Erickson, the showrunner of Fear, revealed in an interview Tobias was indeed alive and well, and he did survive Operation Cobalt during the production of Season 3 of Fear the Walking Dead. And Dave Erickson possibly even had plans to bring the character back in future seasons. But ultimately, Dave Erickson was fired, the show went in a completely new direction, and Tobias was never seen again. Rumours did circulate that he'd join the CRM and might appear in The Ones Who Live with Rick Grimes, but that just flat out never happened. And the only information we have on Tobias as of now is he's alive, somewhere out there, but his location and current community is a complete mystery. Heath's disappearance in Season 7 whilst out looking for supplies with Tara is probably the most famous unsolved mystery from the entire Walking Dead universe. Now, Heath genuinely just disappears in the episode Swear, and after his abduction, all that Tara finds left behind are Heath's glasses and a card that reads PPP. And for years, fans speculated about where Heath had actually gone, and we did finally get an answer. Well, sort of. In 2019, Angela Kang, the then showrunner of The Walking Dead, came out and revealed to us that Heath had been captured by Jadis and traded to the CRM in exchange for weapons. However, she didn't confirm Heath's status. We didn't know whether he was traded to the CRM alive or as an infected in order for them to conduct tests on him. So once again, much like Tobias, there was speculation he would appear or be mentioned in The Ones Who Live, but once again, complete silence. Now, fans were baffled by the decision to write Heath off the show, because he was a popular side character and certainly one of the best Alexandrians, but it was actually the actor Corey Hawkins who requested to leave the show, as he would go on to star in Kong and 24 Legacy that year. However, they didn't want to kill off the character in case the actor ever wanted to return to the role. But in regards to the character of Heath in the Walking Dead universe, it's still a complete mystery to where he is and whether he's even still alive. The PPP card would make an appearance in Tales of the Walking Dead years later, and people speculate that the PPP stands for Pittsburgh, Paris and Portland, which was a movement from the CRM to rebuild humanity. And although it seems the showrunners give us tiny clues every couple of years in regards to Heath's disappearance, we might never get a concrete answer on Heath's fate. We all know Frank Darabont's Season 1 of The Walking Dead was pretty different to the rest of the show. After his firing during the production of Season 2, the new showrunner Glenn Mazzara decided he wanted to make the walkers less capable. See, Frank's walkers could run, climb, use objects to their advantage, and overall just posed a lot bigger threat to our survivors. However, these walkers got slightly toned down in Season 2, but they were still capable of faster movements. But after Season 2, they were totally toned down. I mean, they became slow, lethargic corpses bumbling around the post-apocalyptic landscape. And it wouldn't be until Season 11 that we saw the writers re-experiment with more capable walkers in the form of variants. So we know why walkers lost many of their abilities behind the scenes. It was because a change of showrunner and a different direction for the series. But what about on screen? Well, this is one of the show's biggest mysteries. They never explain it. Why all of a sudden the walkers just become slower, dumber and easier to kill? Now, fans suggested that it's because the bodies from season 1 were fresh and it meant the body could use some of its previous functions, like for example Morgan's wife being able to use muscle memory to open the door of her house, or have the ability to run as their brain was still somewhat functional, allowing them more advanced features like running and climbing. However, with Fear the Walking Dead's release in 2015, we quickly learned that this was not the case, as the walkers who were freshly turned in that show lacked the abilities of the walkers from season 1 of the main show. Ultimately, the decline in walker ability remains a mystery in the show itself to this day. I mean, we have no explanation as to why the Atlanta walkers specifically were so advanced compared to any other we see across the Walking Dead universe, one that never gets addressed or answered in the 15 years of content we've had since season 1 released. And like I said, we know the reasons why it happened off screen, but it's never explained on it. Another lesser known mystery around the season 1 walkers, or rather walker, is the existence of the purple shirt walker. Now this zombie stands out from the others, as not only does it feature in numerous scenes, but the camera focuses on it several times. Now the identity of this walker in the show is unknown. I mean, we don't know its name, we don't know where it came from, and we have no idea why it seemingly stalked Rick across Atlanta. But yet again, behind the scenes, we have an explanation. Frank Darabont just wanted to show some love to Joe Giles, a friend of his who worked with him on the show, so they made him stand out as the main focus on several shots throughout the pilot episode, and it really does emphasise the amazing makeup that goes in behind the scenes to make the walkers look so realistic. And again, behind the scenes, this was just a fun little Easter egg of someone who worked hard on the show getting to appear on it. But again, on screen, this is a mystery. During season 1 of the show, I remember hearing theories that this was a more advanced walker or was the leader of the herd. I mean, some people were convinced that this walker was going to be the main antagonist in season 1 of the show. Now, obviously, in hindsight, that sounds incredibly daft, but to be fair, the show emphasises on this walker a lot in the pilot episode, as well as it seemingly having the ability to stalk its prey, that of course being Rick Grimes. And like I said, the identity and backstory of this walker will forever remain a mystery, at least in the show, that is. Now this seems to be a bit of a theme in The Walking Dead, characters just disappearing with absolutely no explanation. And in this segment I'm going to include 3 of them, because frankly they aren't as high profile as one like Heath. There's no clues or evidence as to where they've gone. Firstly, Georgie. Now this is the woman that Maggie decided to help on her mission of trying to give different communities the blueprints on how to flourish. We meet her in season 8, episode 12, and ultimately this character was written as a foil so they could explain Maggie's departure from the show for a short period of time, as the actress Lauren Cohan and AMC fell out over a contract dispute. Ultimately, Maggie would return in season 11 and Georgie was nowhere to be seen. She was mentioned a few times throughout seasons 9 and 10, but again, we never saw her fate. We don't know if she's still alive or what her own community looks like, because if she's able to go around helping others make a functional community, then surely her own must be pretty amazing. But again, they're both unanswered. We don't know if she's alive or where she lives. Then there's Virgil, a character who actually plays a pretty big role in the early parts of season 11 and features in the Feral Human episode alongside Connie that I mentioned earlier on in this video. He would make his first appearance in season 10 episode 8 titled The World Before and make steady appearances throughout the show until his final episode, For Blood. After this episode, we never saw the character of Virgil ever again. Even after the group's victory over Pamela and move to the Commonwealth, Virgil is not seen living in either Alexandria or the Commonwealth. Now, Virgil was stabbed twice by a feral human, so it's possible he could have succumbed to his injuries and died off screen, but to me it seems extremely weird to have him not just survive that episode that he's stabbed in, but also appear in the next 2 episodes of the show with seemingly nothing wrong, only for him to then die off screen. Ultimately, Virgil's fate is totally unknown. We have no idea where he is, what community he might be currently living in, and if he's even still alive. And the final character we'll talk about in this segment is Winnie. Now, Winnie was a kid, a part of Jocelyn's group, the woman in season 9 who abducts Judith and steals supplies from Alexandria. She then brandishes a pregnant Michonne with hot metal because she was a complete psycho and also had an army of brainwashed kids who she'd ordered to kill the captured Judith. Michonne, after killing Jocelyn, pleads for the kids not to go through with Jocelyn's orders, but they don't listen. So Michonne is forced to kill a bunch of literal children, which, as it probably would do, leaves deep psychological scars on the character of Michonne. But after killing all of the kids, there is one left, that of course being Winnie. Now Winnie was 8 years old at the time of the incident, and Michonne lets her go. She runs off into the woods and is never seen again. And although I'm pretty sure she'd probably be dead in a world infested with walkers, as a literal 8-year-old child, there is no concrete proof, leaving the possibility that one of these child psychopaths is still out there. Michonne and Daryl, who then rescue Judith, take her straight back to Alexandria. They do not attempt to track down the escaped Winnie, so it is a complete mystery as to where she is and if she's even still alive. In Daryl Dixon Season 2, from the characters of Fiona and Angus, we learn that the UK survived the initial Monument Day, operating under military law and surviving as fairly normal for years into the apocalypse. Now, the UK was helped out by the fact it's an island nation and how quickly they closed off their connection to mainland Europe via the Eurotunnel. And the UK seemingly fared the best of any nation we'd seen across the Walking Dead universe as of yet. However, in Season 3 of Daryl Dixon, we see England, well, London at least, is far from operational. Scattered with corpses and seemingly abandoned, the city had fallen into a state of decay, and Daryl and Carol could only find a singular survivor in the entire capital city, which was a man named Julian. Now, Julian tells Daryl and Carol he is the only survivor left in the whole of England, as far as he knows, and that, quote, everybody turned on each other, which is why the country fell into the manner in which it is today. However, we only actually explore England for about 20 minutes, as Daryl, Carol and Julian all set sail for America. But this means we have no idea whether the story of London rings true for the majority of cities across England, and if other countries a part of the UK survive, such as Ireland and Scotland with their more remote settings. Essentially, the details on how England fell are extremely mysterious, especially after they seemingly had control over the situation, at least early on in the apocalypse. It also remains a mystery as to whether Julian truly was the last man in England, or whether there were more out there. Now, obviously, being from the UK myself, this topic intrigues me a lot as to what my country's fate was within the Walking Dead universe, and the mystery of England's rapid fall and virtually zero survivors is a weird case, as in every country we visited in the entire Walking Dead universe, there is always some form of community that survived and lives on into the apocalypse. But in England, or London at least, there was just a singular person. So was Julian actually the last person in England? And if so, why did England as a nation fare so bad compared to the rest of the world, at least when it descended into chaos? Ultimately, again, we will probably never get the answers to these questions, but the fact the UK survived deeper into the apocalypse than any other nation, then seemingly just lost control in an instant, makes it a very mysterious case. Now, the Dave Erickson era of Fear the Walking Dead is, in my opinion, absolutely phenomenal, and it even stacks up to some of the best seasons from the main show. But in 2017, Dave Erickson would be fired as the showrunner for this popular spin-off series, and it was announced that from season 4 and onwards, there was a new showrunner taking over. Along with this announcement, they revealed that Morgan Jones from the main show would be moved over to Fear the Walking Dead, and the focus would shift from the Clark family over to Morgan Jones himself. Now, obviously, the show's ratings would plummet after this decision, and many fans of Fear the Walking Dead were outraged by the disregard of the storyline they'd become so attached to in the first 3 seasons. And due to the show's change of direction, it left a lot of unanswered questions. Throughout season 3 of Fear the Walking Dead, we'd watched an immense amount of tension build up and culminate in a season finale standoff between our survivors and the feared Proctors, a criminal organisation aiming to secure trade routes across Mexico and into America. Ultimately, Nick blows up the dam, seemingly sacrificing himself and ruining the Proctor's plans in the process. However, season 4 of Fear gives us a roughly 2-year time jump, and with this time skip, it left many unanswered unanswered questions. How did Troy survive to return to Season 8 of Fear the Walking Dead? What happened to Proctor John and his criminal organisation? What happened to Crazy Dog and Tucker, who just left at the end of Season 3? And how did Daniel Salazar also find himself in Texas during Season 5 of the show? As well as many more questions like what the hell happened to Mexico as a country? Because we would never revisit the country in any Walking Dead media post 2017. As well as things like how on earth did Nick Clark survive? The amount of loose ends left at the end of Season 3 of Fear is genuinely baffling, and we get absolutely zero answers to any of them. It's so drastic that turning on Season 4 feels like a completely different show to the end of Season 3. And again, behind the scenes, we know exactly why this change happened. It was because the showrunner was fired. But on screen, there is no explanation to any of these questions. And the fates of several key characters from Fear the Walking Dead remain a mystery to this day. But with that being said, those are some of the biggest mysteries from across the Walking Dead universe. And please do let me know down below in the comments what your favourite mystery is, or if I've missed any off this list. If you did enjoy today's video, please do like and subscribe, as it helps the channel out massively, and we are well on our way to 30,000 subscribers, which just feels surreal to say. But as always, a huge thank you for watching today's video, and I'll see you all next time. Goodbye.